Okay, we're continuing with the book, The Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by me, Pete Rogers. We're on Gary Kasparov. We're going in alphabetical order. He was a great world champion of chess from 1985 to 2000. He's from Russia. He wrote a book about, life lessons from playing chess. One of them was mental energy is connected to physical fitness. One of the reasons I stayed on top so long is I was tremendously fit. At 36 years of age, I was fitter than most opponents 10 years younger. Yeah, it makes you smarter. I've had college professors tell me their best students are the student athletes, people who exercise a lot. Kasparov continued, to become a great chess player, you must be intimately aware of the methods you use to reach your decision. So that's called metacognition, thinking about thinking, analyzing, why am I thinking this? Why do I think this is right? Because when you understand the reason for coming to your conclusion, you can be more certain of how strong that conclusion is, how certain you are that it's accurate. What separates a winner from a loser at the grandmaster level is the willingness to do the unthinkable. Enormous self-belief, intuition, the ability to take a risk at a critical moment and to go in for a challenging play with chances for the opponent. It is precisely these qualities that distinguish the great players. His book is called How Life Imitates Chess. And I liked it. It kind of motivated me to work harder, refine my methods. Okay, Kasparov continues. The ability to work hard for days on end is a talent. The ability to keep on absorbing new information after many hours of study is a talent. Yeah, I've seen that with great athletes and great students. They do work harder than other people, in part because they believe, they have hope that it's worthwhile, it pays off. I knew guys who became great wrestlers because they wanted to be great wrestlers. They didn't have that much talent. I've known other guys who were getting A+ at Stanford who simply loved learning. So it was easy for them to study more. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, I also noticed in med school, your study endurance increases. Your ability to just study, keep on absorbing new information goes up with time. To integrate different subjects goes up with time. As the year goes by, it becomes nothing to study for 5 hours straight. Okay, you'll take little breaks during that time, but you've got more endurance to just keep on absorbing the material, in part because you're more familiar with it. So it's not as new, it's not as complex as it used to be. Kasparov, you must enter competitions. Competition generates hidden reserves of effort. Yeah, I noticed that for like a wrestler. If you want to get good at wrestling, you got to go to all the spring competitions in the off season, the freestyle season. You just develop twice as fast. Kasparov, my nature is that I have to excite myself with a big challenge. Yeah, that's how you push yourself. Being in a competition or, saying I want to write this book and I have to have it done by the end of the month because I'll be too busy next month to work on it and I have to see the whole thing from start to finish in my mind. So I must finish it now, no matter what. Okay, the strategist method is to challenge the prevailing assumptions with a single question, why? Why is the question that separates visionaries from functionaries, great strategists from mere tacticians. You must ask this question constantly if you are to understand and to develop and follow your strategy. Okay, the best way to learn a topic is to teach it. You can get quite far in a democracy if you can convince a majority that they are victims of a minority and that only you can protect them. That's kind of like the Dems. They basically said the white Christian man is the evil and all the other groups are persecuted by him or treated unfairly by him, and they will take care of him. So all these other groups went against him, and the goal of it all was to destroy the country. That's where that comes from, and he knows it. He can explain it quite well. The point of modern propaganda isn't only to misinform or push an agenda. It is to exhaust your critical thinking, to annihilate truth. Okay. Nikos Kazantzakis, he lived from 1883 to 1957. Let me get the whole quote on the same page. God is imperiled. He is not almighty, that we may cross our hands awaiting for certain victory. He is not all holy, that we may wait trustingly for him to pity and to save us. Within the province of our ephemeral flesh, all of God is imperiled. He cannot be saved unless we save him with our own struggles, nor can we be saved unless he and we are one. Nikos Kazantzakis from The Relationship Between God and Man. Now, don't get me wrong, Kazantzakis is a bit of a pain in the ass. He's not one of my favorite writers, but there's a point in all this, is that, God had said in the Bible, he who turns his back on me, I will turn my back on him. And it always happens. It's the same pattern in the Old Testament, is when a population turns its back on God, they get crushed. Okay, and so that's what's happened to the Western Christian man. He bought into all this socialism BS, this atheism BS, this Darwin BS nonsense, and he thus became effeminate, decadent, and weak, and now he's being destroyed. And hopefully it's not too late for him. He's going to make a comeback. I certainly hope so, because if not, atheistic Darwinism and slavery is going to rule the world. Okay, next we're going to do Alfred Kazin. He's an American writer. He says, the writer writes in order to teach himself. And there's a lot of truth in that. Like right now, whenever I'm interested in a subject, I'll often decide to write a book about it because I know that'll give me all kinds of energy to really study it and to master it, because I'll think something's important, and then I'll do that. And what I do is I study the subject, then I have as many conversations as I can with people about it, then I watch all the videos on it, and then I'll have it, and I try to get some experience, if I can get that clinical experience in some way, and then I'll write a book about it. Okay, he writes in order to teach himself, to understand himself, to satisfy himself. The publishing of his ideas, though it brings gratification, it is a curious anticlimax. Okay. We never know how much has been missing from our lives until a true writer comes along. Yeah, when a great writer comes along, it's like, boom, something new and big happens, like, Multiple Sclerosis Mystery Solved by Hal Huggins. He ain't a great writer, but he was a great dentist scientist. You're like, wow, a whole new perspective, okay? You learn about Roy Swank in his book, and you're like, gee, I got this new big perspective on multiple sclerosis. Richard Moore in his book, woo, I got a new perspective on ion pumps and hypertension. And it's the old guys who write the best books because they're in a position where they really don't care what people think of them. They're just going to tell the truth. They want to share their legacy before they die. Okay, the next person, and I think the last one for today, is going to be Helen Keller. So Helen Keller was an American lady born in Alabama, and when she was 19 months old, very sad, she had some type of infection. They don't know exactly what it was. It might have been some type of meningitis, but it caused her to go blind and also to become deaf, and she hadn't learned how to speak yet, so she really couldn't speak too well. Okay, and she was spoiled by her family up until that, and then they didn't know how to handle her. She had a lot of temper tantrums. Finally, when she's about 6 years old, they got a lady named Anne Sullivan, who is partially blind herself, to help teach her, and that really was the sort of the golden moment in her life. At first, she couldn't make any sense out of it, but she remembered when Anne Sullivan was trying to teach her, she poured water on one hand, and then simultaneously she made the Braille sign for water on the other hand. And the light came on for Helen, and she recognized that was the word being put into her hand. And after that, she really was determined, and she just pestered Anne to teach her every single word of everything in her own little world as fast as possible. And she was a smart person, so she learned pretty fast. She loved to read Braille. She would read so much in Braille that, with her fingers, that her fingers started bleeding, and they would have to put Silco on her fingers, and she wanted to keep on reading. So one title of a movie about her was like Miracle Worker. Let's see. She was the first blind person to get a 4-year college degree. She ended up going to Radcliffe Harvard College. Okay. So here she says, faith is the strength by which a shattered world shall emerge into the light. That's also true. The only thing that's going to save the world is either going to be slavery or it's going to be Christianity. Everything else is just, a sideshow. Okay. And that's the reality. Okay, you're not going to convert everybody to Hindu. You're not going to convert everybody to Islam. And you don't have to convert them to Christianity either, but they have to have Christian ethics. Otherwise, you're not going to have peace, because it's the only thing that can stand up to money. And the big driving force of atheistic Darwinism is big money. And Christianity is the only thing that can stand up to it. That's why they hate Christians. Okay, Helen Keller quote, I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And I will not let what I cannot do interfere with doing what I can do. Okay, that's a good one. Optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope and confidence. Yeah, so basically Helen Keller was a heroic story of overcoming blindness and deafness and even muteness initially. She ended up being a little crazy though, and she was a bit weak, mentally weak. She got talked into becoming a socialist, being one of the co-founders of the ACLU. So she ended up really kind of being a jerk, okay? So I'm impressed, and I think it's a good inspiration that a person can overcome their blindness and, become educated. But, in the end, she's sort of a conformist, lightweight, and did what I would consider some pretty bad things. ACLU is like, the American Communist Party front. Okay, please. Okay, when one door of happiness closes, another opens. But often we look so long at the closed door, we do not see the one that is open for us. The mystery of language was revealed to me. I knew then what water meant, and that wonderful cool something that was flowing over my hand. The living word had awakened my soul. It gave it light, joy, and set it free. Okay, and then here I kind of like this one, and I made a parody poem of it. They took away what should have been my eyes, but I remembered Milton's Paradise. They took away what should have been my ears, but Beethoven came and wiped away my tears. They took away what should have been my tongue, but I had talked with God when I was young. He would not let them take my soul, and possessing that, I still possess the whole. So that's a great poem. I made some own little version of it, nothing special here. They took away my mother, she died of colon cancer from eating meat. They took away my father, he died of a stroke from eating meat. I was too young when they got sick, I didn't know what to do. But now I've read all the books and journal articles. I know what to do. It's too late to save them, but I can save you. Okay, that's it for quotes today. Hope you found that helpful.